What is going on, guys? Welcome to this video. My name is Cameron and this is the non-spoilers review for Spider-Man Homecoming. Alright, so plenty of you guys have been asking me for my thoughts on the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, especially because I'm a massive Spider-Man fan. So yeah, this is my review, this is my thoughts. Listen up, because let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with talking about all of the good things about the movie, and then all of the bad things about the movie. Well, you know, just the things that I kind of had a little bit of a thing with, not necessarily bad things, but you know what I mean. So starting off with the good things, I thought that the movie did a really good job of showing the fun side of being Spider-Man. You know, as a 15-year-old kid, how much fun being Spider-Man would actually be. And what I'm talking about is pretty much at the beginning of the movie, where you sort of see that stance of Peter Parker, where you can just tell that everything around him is pretty average, but it's really entertaining for him to be Spider-Man. Like, throughout every single day, he's just looking forward to being Spider-Man, going out there fighting criminals, swinging from, like, buildings. It's just, you can tell that this film does a really good job of showing off the fun side of Spider-Man. It's awesome. I also thought Spider-Man actor Tom Holland was a really good choice to play Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Now, obviously, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel in general have really good casting choices when it comes to their characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, look at Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Hemsworth as Thor and stuff like that. They're just really good choices for every single character, and I think they also hit the nail on the head with Tom Holland as Spider-Man as well. And talking of characters, Michael Keaton as the Vulture, just wow. One of the things that this movie does really well is have you understand the motives for the villain in the Marvel Universe. Now, I know that's quite strange to say, especially because I know quite a lot of people had a problem with the villain in the Captain America Civil War movie because he wasn't a proper villain and it just didn't really thingy, but in this movie, they did a really good job of sort of fleshing out the villain of the Vulture and understanding why he's doing what he's doing and where he's coming from, and just kind of his motives in general. And I think that really helps because the actor who was playing Vulture was Michael Keaton, and I think just having an A-list actor like that to play a villain such as the Vulture really brings the Vulture a lot more presence in the movie, especially because the Vulture isn't really someone that you think of in the Spider-Man universe as someone who's like a super major threat. But this movie makes him a major threat just because he's being played by Michael Keaton. Really good job on both Tom Holland and Michael Keaton's characters. Really good job. The pacing of the movie was also quite nice as well. A lot of it, or well, I'd say probably 40% of the movie took place with Peter Parker and in his school. So Peter Parker's best friend, known as Ned, also played by Jacob Batalon, I think his name is, or Balaton. He did a really good job of just sort of making those scenes easier because whilst Peter's at school, there's nothing really too interesting happening. It's kind of just one of those downtimes from being Spider-Man. But the inclusion of Peter Parker's best friend, such as Ned, really makes those scenes funny, and you can just tell that the relationship between Tom Holland and Jacob Batalon, is it Batalon? So yeah, you can really tell that the chemistry between those two guys are really good, and I think if you've seen some of their interviews online, they actually really do bounce off each other's personalities as well during interviews. So it's really nice to see that they brought that over into the Spider-Man movie, and it works really well. And quite noticeable that Ned is taking influence from the Miles Morales Spider-Man comics character Gank, who is Miles Morales' best friend in school. So yeah, I love that. Now, I think it's quite obvious to say this, but of course Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man absolutely killed it 100%. He always does. Don't think anybody else could play Tony Stark except for Robert Downey Jr. So yeah, that's a good thing. But I'll talk about something else that I had a little bit of a gripe with in the bad side of things in this review. But yeah, other than that, Tony Stark was really cool. Another thing I want to talk about is the Marvel references made throughout this movie that link to the other Marvel films. I thought it was really awesome. There was one particular scene where just in the background you could hear like a teacher talking about the Sokovia Accords, obviously from Captain America Civil War. It was really nice to hear stuff like that. So whilst you're watching the movie, I would say just keep your ears sort of peeled for if anything is said, or maybe signs in the background or something like that. Really cool stuff. Now, as for Aunt May, I think quite a lot of us as die-hard Spider-Man fans were quite concerned with the actress Marisa Tomei for playing Aunt May, because she's quite a young actress and obviously she's quite attractive, and Aunt May isn't really supposed to fit into those categories. So there was a little bit of concern, but as I watched the movie, I didn't really see anything that stood out to me that was quite jarring in terms of her not being Aunt May. Like, I did actually believe in the movie that she was Aunt May. And there are also moments in the movie where they do actually address how young she is, sort of thing. You know, there's a bit of a joke from Marvel to us as the audience, so that was quite cool to see as well, just that they're acknowledging that we kind of don't get it, but we do. The humour in this movie is absolutely on point as well. I feel like throughout the movie there was like a bit of the movie where you just felt like it was joke after joke after joke, and you were sort of just waiting for the next funny thing to happen. But throughout the movie, the humour was actually really, really good, especially because Spider-Man as a character, he's quite a humorous character, so it was nice to see that that carried out throughout the rest of the movie as you was watching it. And it didn't really feel too forced either, it just kind of naturally happened. So as a watcher of this movie, it was quite noticeable that this film was more of Spider-Man finding himself, Peter Parker finding his place in the superhero categories in New York City, especially because you've got all these Avengers superheroes flying around as well. By the end of the movie, you felt like Spider-Man had established himself enough to believe in himself, if you get what I mean. The action in the movie was carried out really well. I think the directorate of the camera shots and stuff like that were actually making the action shots look even more interesting, just because sometimes it was from Spider-Man's point of view. Specifically in the boat scene that were in the trailer, that was really cool as well. Just like every now and again there's like different angles, like I won't give anything away, but it's cool. However, it did feel like every now and again it was like action, calm down, action, school scene, more action, and then just, you know, just a bit staged like that. But other than that, it was a really cool action-packed movie, and it lived up to some of those really, really awesome moments from the comics. There is one specific action scene, which is like 70 or 80% the way through the movie, and you will know what I'm talking about. It really is a massive nod to some die-hard Spider-Man fans, and you will love it. It's genuinely awesome. But now guys, that is some of the stuff that I loved about the movie. Obviously, to round that up, I'd say probably the best stuff was obviously Spider-Man being Spider-Man and just showing how fun it truly is to be Spider-Man, especially if you are a 15-year-old kid. And the Vulture and just Michael Keaton. I think Michael Keaton was one of the highlights of the movie for me, just because you loved watching him on screen. It was just really, really cool, and there is a definite twist throughout the movie which you will be surprised at. It's really awesome. But now going into not necessarily the bad stuff, but some of the things that I have a concern with about the movie. Tony Stark throughout the movie, I didn't really feel like he was his usual Tony Stark self. Like, usually Tony is more of like an obnoxious, confident person, but I feel like throughout the movie, he didn't really have the time of day for Peter Parker. Like, he kind of just shunned Peter Parker off all the time. And of course, Jon Favreau, who plays Tony Stark's kind of assistant sort of thing, I feel like he just shunned Peter Parker off as well. Obviously, Peter Parker is a 15-year-old kid. He's Spider-Man. He's not necessarily an established superhero just yet in the New York City, but it just felt like Tony Stark was being a little bit of, forgive my language, but a massive towards Spider-Man and Peter Parker. It was really, really weird. It's like it was like Peter Parker was a child and Tony Stark just kind of shunned him off, which obviously Spider-Man is a child, but I just didn't expect it as much coming from Tony Stark, especially because we've known Tony Stark for like the last 10 years nearly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I've never really noticed him act like that yet, so the fact that he was acting like that in this movie was quite strange. Another thing was the Spider-Man costume that was given to him by Tony Stark. Now obviously we saw it in Captain America Civil War in 2016, but in this movie they sort of expand out on that costume and just show its full sort of potential. And really throughout the movie, it kind of takes away some of the characteristics of Spider-Man that make Spider-Man Spider-Man. So I didn't really like that Spider-Man relied so much on his Tony Stark suit instead of just sort of doing things himself. But I think that's where it comes into the fact that obviously Peter Parker is 15 years old and he's still yet to discover how great he truly can be. So I think I could pass that off to that. But yeah, I'll talk more about that in my spoilers review, because obviously I want to talk about some things, but I can't talk about it without spoiling some things, so yeah. And of course, going into what I think pretty much everybody's talking about is the overall plot of the film. It felt quite close to Spider-Man's chest, which I actually quite liked, that it was more of a personal thing for, you know, Vulture is more of like a villain for Spider-Man instead of a villain for the Avengers, isn't he? So I liked that it was more of like a smaller villain such as Vulture, but everything that happened in the movie didn't really feel like Spider-Man was going to die, if you get what I mean. There is actually one moment in the movie where you think that it's actually getting quite serious and it's getting crazy, but for the most part of the movie, it doesn't really seem too serious, and obviously, as I've already said, there is quite a lot of jokes in the movie, it's quite humorous, but all of the events that happened it didn't really feel like it wanted to go all the way and actually injure Spider-Man or potentially nearly kill him or something along those lines. I felt like it played it quite safe, and that's actually really understandable, particularly because this is the first Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie, and so hopefully they'll sort of flesh out Spider-Man's character a bit more and take more risks in the next Spider-Man movie. But yeah, just a little bit of a concern was that they didn't really, nothing felt like it was too major throughout the movie, so yeah, that was just the one concern. And finally, the last thing that I have a concern with, none of these things are actually majorly bad, but just things that I have a little bit of a concern with, and one of these things is Flash Thompson in the movie. Who's he played by? Played by Tony Revolori. He is actually a really good actor, and I think it was quite funny how he portrayed Flash Thompson, like it was more of like a modern day one. But what really struck me, Flash Thompson is smart in the movie. Flash Thompson is supposed to be a dumb jock who's tall and he's kind of bigger, and he bullies Spider-Man, well, Peter Parker, and pushes him around and stuff like that. And that's what makes Flash Thompson, is that he's like a big jock who's not as smart as Peter Parker. And that's why Flash doesn't like Peter Parker, because Peter Parker is super smart and he doesn't bully him physically, he more bullies him verbally and through other things like that. And it is really, really funny in the movie, and it does actually fit in kind of well. But as a comic book fan, as a Spider-Man fan, I would have just preferred it if they just went the original way with getting some massive jock who plays Flash Thompson. It would have been so much better, and the interactions between Flash and Peter Parker would have been 10 times better as well if it was more of a physical bullying, whereas instead throughout this movie, it's more of just Flash Thompson calling Peter Parker names and stuff. So yeah, that was something I had a concern with, but obviously we can see how it escalates in the next Spider-Man movie. Yeah, like, just a bit of a concern. But guys, that is the end of this review. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. My knees and my feet are absolutely killing me right now because I've been kneeling on the floor for like 45 minutes. But yeah, let me know what you thought. If you want more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. And of course, hit the like button if you liked this video. I might actually develop some of the things that I've said in this video by mentioning them in the comments below. So check the comments, and of course, we can talk in the comments, have a discussion. Let me know what you thought about the movie, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.